I faced police calls due to a classmate's misunderstanding about my bruises. Now she must change classes and face the consequences. I, 19, am in a nursing program. We do a lot of physical exams on each other to practice, which involves wearing shorts and tanks. It's important to mention that I am permanently blind in one eye. I'm constantly running into walls. Doors, railings, plants, people, animals, everything. As you can guess, I'm covered in bruises 90% of the time on my blind side. In the course, one day we were talking about signs of abuse. And the teacher said, "Constant bruising." I raised my hand and added that it's important to talk to the patient, if they're an adult, before calling the police, as it could be something else. She asked for an example, so I rolled up my sleeve and explained that the bruises were from door handles of the school, which were varying colors and heights. She nodded and agreed. She said that with children, we call the authorities the moment we suspect abuse. With adults, we first attempt to talk to them, and if their reason seems valid, we don't call the authorities. A week later, the cops showed up at my door. They told me they had received a report that I was being physically abused and was always covered in bruises. I explained my disability to them. They checked my home, talked to my family, and found no further signs of abuse. When I asked questions, they told me they got my address from the university because they take abuse seriously there. When they talked to the university about me, the university was very concerned and just wanted to help me. After the police left, I talked to some people at the university, including a psychologist, just so they could be sure I had no mental signs of abuse. Then life went on. Well, I was still coming in bruises every day, and one of my classmates came up to me. She told me our classmate Kay was telling people she was thinking about calling the police again because I'm still covered in bruises. I got my classmate's report written down alongside a few others and waited. Sure enough, the police showed up again. Same song and dance. But this time I told the university that Kay was using the police to harass me, and I wanted something done about it. The university decided the best course of action was to move her from my labs to the other ones so she couldn't see whether I was bruised or not. She's now told me I'm an expletive, and that she was just trying to help me, and I didn't need to mess up her whole university schedule. Relevant comments deleted. User. She really didn't learn the lesson the class was taught, did she? A lesson she needs to understand if she's going to work in this job. If she'd done what the teacher taught, talked to the adult, then none of this would have happened. She brought this on herself. Comment 1. She was harassing you by carrying on calling the police. Once can definitely be out of concern, but after everything was checked out, and you were safe, she decided to continue, so it's totally on her. OP, I was fine with the once, it's okay. People make mistakes, but after the second time, I wanted to make sure it had stopped. Comment 2, I'm not blind in either eye, and I'm also always bruised. My legs and sides always have a big purple knot somewhere. It's a daily occurrence. Multiple doctors have said it's not a medical issue. I just have terrible spatial awareness for where my body is. I run into door handles, my work desk, and counters. I get my clothes caught on stuff all the time. It's entirely my own lack of attention and clumsiness. Comment 3. Kay knew about your disability and literally learned it in class about talking with the patient before reporting. Additionally, Kay could be a serious danger to her patients if she did this with a DV case. The abuser may escalate when confronted by police, which can create a dangerous and potentially deadly situation. Comment 4. Kay found out the consequences of not believing you and not minding her own business. She needs to learn to rein that in. Or she's not going to keep a job as a nurse with assumption-making skills like that. Comment 5. Genuine question. How do you get bruised almost every day? Do you have low sight in your other eye as well? Do you wear eyeglasses? I'm blind in one eye as well, by birth. I'm short-sighted. But I rarely get bruised running into things. I usually sprain my ankle due to not noticing unlevel ground or hit my toe on the wall corners due to blind spots once or twice a year. But the peripheral vision and the angle at which I turn my head to keep my eye at center is more than enough to not bump into things so frequently. OP, I'm nearsighted in the other eye. Stuff on my left side is just impossible to see. Glasses get in the way of some of my peripheral vision. Keeping my head turned too long causes stiffness in my neck. And I have to be able to turn my head fast and quick. As I said, well, I get bruised a lot. It doesn't interfere with my job. It's something I've grown up with, and I bruise easily. I don't bump into anything at home, but in the outside world I do. Comment 6. I ask this as a nurse, and I mean no disrespect. But are you sure that nursing is the best field for you given that impairment? OP. Yes, I love helping people and I'm fully capable of the job. I'm the only one who ever gets injured in my daily life. LOL. And it's typically because I'm not paying enough attention to my surroundings and don't notice something new and trip on it. Update 1. Okay, so I'm blind in one eye. I run into random stuff if I'm not paying enough attention. I am covered in various bruises. I showed this during class while talking about abuse and how we have to talk to adults before calling. Girl decided to call the cops on me twice, claiming I'm abused, resulting in me being forced to go to counseling, talk to therapists, police, etc., until everyone was assured I wasn't abused. So anyways, it's been a bit since that post, and I have big updates on her. I called her K in the other story, so let's stick with that. So anyways, I had previously gotten her removed from my labs. We still shared class, not labs. I figured everything was fine now, and she'd leave me alone, but I was wrong. Not only was she spreading rumors that I was abused, but she called the cops again. Apparently more than once, as the other 2 times the cops said they had a report of abuse. This time they said reports. When I asked how many reports, they said that it was multiple people. So I don't know if others in class called or she had her family do so. I just don't know. They couldn't tell me who called due to privacy when it comes to reporting. To try and make sure abusers don't attack the reporters. Apparently, my university had attempted to stop them when the cops spoke to them, but the cops had to check anyways. So they came after talking to the university anyways, and again, we did the same song and dance. I told them I felt like someone was using the cops to harass me, and the cops took this. They said no one would show up again, and anyone that calls would now have their name taken down, and if they call after being told not to, they'd be charged with harassment. Well, that was about a week ago, and someone continued calling, tried to claim a different name, didn't realize they record phone numbers as well. So there's your update on K. She called again and again and again until it got her charged with harassment, as well as misuse of police resources. Not certain what's going to happen going forward or if I'll be called to testify. I'm not certain what's happening, but I haven't seen her since. I was informed that she's still called, which I found out from another classmate. Relevant comments deleted. User. What's the school doing about this? Is she getting expelled for harassing you? OP. Seeing as she's probably ending up with a criminal charge, she will be expelled. Comment 1. You're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting the patients she might have had in the future. She's got big issues. Comment 2. This really pisses me off. My toddler has von Willebrand disease, so her blood doesn't work the way it should. She is so covered in bruises all the time that she looks like a Dalmatian. She also has paper-thin skin. So she has many cuts in a day. One day, she even got the corner of her eye open from the corner of a pillow. Last summer, we got a call from the CPS. Someone called them that we are beating our child and that they have seen it. This is not true, and if you really saw a parent beating their 1.5-year-old child, wouldn't you stop it when it was happening, not call a week later? Best part was that we weren't even in the country when the beating took place. Someone was just mad because we had been renovating our house, and the noise was too much for them. Pure harassment. Comment 3. I read your other post and was glad to find this update. While I agree Kay is definitely in the wrong and needs to have the consequences of her actions, hopefully not being a nurse is one of them, since she seems unfit for it. I really came here because I was so upset about how people were saying you shouldn't be a nurse because you are blind in one eye. My brother is blind in one eye. Actually, he has had a prosthetic eye since he was a kid. He has been a nurse for more than 30 years, ER nurse, cardiac surgery nurse, trauma unit. He's done it all while having no sight on one side. People that say you can't be a nurse need to F off. They are narrow-minded. He's also my brother, rides a motorcycle, and has done since he was a teen. Do what makes you happy. And F all the rest of them. Good luck on your career. Update 2. I don't know exactly where to start with this post, but I kind of want to give this update because I'm hoping it's the last one. So, I made my last post only 12 days ago, and kind of went down now. I need to explain that quite a bit of this is secondhand because I luckily avoided the crazies. So basically, Kay does not know where I live. Knows the general town, but nothing else. I did invite one girl in our class to my house to work on a project. She was the only person other than the university that knows where I live. Kay knows this because her and girl, who I'll call Lily, are kind of not related. Lily's cousin is married to Kay's cousin. So they knew each other prior to the program but not really well, and Lily is also the one that told me about Kay still calling even after the police promised me they would not show up again. Which they haven't. They just started taking down the numbers and keeping track of who called, when, and did they call after being told not to. So basically, Kay knew me and Lily were paired up for the project. Kay knew Lily came to my house. Did not know where the house was or what it looked like, just that it was in a town XKM away from where they were. They also knew the town name via Lily's mom. So I got warned by Lily that Kay's mom was going to try to find me to get me to drop Kay's charges. I'm not the one charging her, the police are. I have not pressed any charges, despite some people saying I should get a restraining order. Lily warned me. And I hid in my house and did not leave until Lily told me that Kay's mom had returned home. Kay's mom then proceeded to harass Lily in an attempt to get Lily to give Kay's mom my address so she could knock on my door instead of driving around aimlessly hoping to spot me. Lily refused and deleted all text between me and her to ensure that even if Kay's mom stole her phone and somehow got past the password, she would never get my address. Lily then informed the university of the situation and had proof via text that the university had her print off and give to them and the police. The university security are now watching for Kay's mom's car, and Kay's mom's security is informed that if and when I'm at school, they are to escort me to and from my car. My car is also to be parked near cameras by order of the university until the situation dies down. Luckily, I'm at clinicals and not anywhere near the university. Kay was kicked out before clinicals, so has no idea which clinics the students are at or which I'm at. Had she stayed in longer, she'd have a literal list posted to the class page about where I'm at and where in the building I'm at. Kay's family apparently was informed by the police that any attempts to contact me would be harassment, so says Lily. Can't guarantee, but yeah, I kind of don't know how to feel. The next time I have to go to the uni is for exams in like 3 weeks, so hopefully, Kay's family doesn't hold on to this that long. Until then, I'm safe in a building filled with security, locked doors, and places to run. The placement was also informed about this situation and with pictures from Lily, who's at a different placement, are watching for Kay's family and has banned them from the premise in advance. So yeah, if this goes no further, I won't update anymore, but if it gets worse, I guess I'll update after my exams in 3 weeks. I wish me luck because I'm going to try to not stress too much about the case situation and focus on my finals instead of that. But don't know how that will go. Hope y'all are enjoying my mild suffering, and it entertains you even if only a bit so that some good can come from this situation I can't believe I'm in right now. So yeah, thanks again for the words of encouragement and kindness some of you showed me during this insanity. Wish Lily some luck as she's being bombarded by her family to give Kay's mom my address, phone number, etc., and doing her best to hold out on this while making sure her phone is never out of her sight on the off chance she leaves it open. Anyways, hopefully this is goodbye. If not, well, I'll see y'all in 3 weeks for another update. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I don't understand why there is so much drama from Kay and her family. Like, what the heck is happening that they feel the need to harass you? Have you presented a restraining order? OP hi. I still don't feel a restraining order necessary, as they really only keep people willing to listen away, and that's not really the case here. I plan to just avoid it. The police and courts handle it, and forget it ever happened. Comment 2. This is going too far. What's wrong with that woman, and has her whole family gone insane? Not only are they harassing you, but they're putting your family in danger. She's basically accusing them of abuse. It could damage their reputation but also put their job on the line depending on their fields. It's good that they are providing you with security, but it's still not enough. Lily won't possibly be able to warn you every time that woman goes out of her house in case she eventually finds your house and comes to threaten you. You should probably get cameras for your door to record everything. When you say she was kicked out, do you mean the school? Because I really hope your university realized how unhinged Kay's behavior has been and how unfit she is to start a career in this field. Not only does she lack common sense, but she's also acting in a deranged manner. Targeting someone like that is not acceptable, especially not under the fake pretense of trying to help. Had you really been a victim of abuse, you would have probably been even more traumatized by this situation. Hi, so yes, my house has cameras already, and Kay has been removed from school due to pending charges. And should they fully go through, she will never come back. Her access to everything has been suspended, and she's basically already expelled. They are just awaiting charges to go through before they actually push the expulsion through. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. Me and my brother will never be the same after a fake LGBTQ wedding broke our trust and ruined our relationship forever. July 17, 2023. I am 30 years old, and my brother, who is 31, and I have always shared a bond as close as twins. Our closeness forms a core part of our family dynamics. Whenever we have disagreements, which are rare and usually minor, the entire family feels the impact and steps in to resolve it because it feels so out of place. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding, and I even named one of my children after him. We have matching tattoos and talk on the phone nearly every day. When he started planning his wedding, he asked me to be a groomsman, while his friend, a woman in her mid-30s, would be his best man. This surprised everyone, given his significant role in my wedding and the fact that none of us really knew his friend. I told him I was hurt by this decision, but he responded by saying, "My wedding isn't about you." I decided to accept his request and focus on making his day special. Throughout the planning, he called me daily, and we exchanged ideas. I helped with various tasks and tried not to dwell on titles, instead aiming to make his day as perfect as possible. He asked me to be the flower fairy for his gay, child-free wedding, and I agreed. However, during the process of selecting dresses and shoes, he and his best man shot down all my suggestions. She sent options for basic heels costing around $100, which were beyond my budget of $45. Especially for plain gold heels. The wedding party had a mean girl vibe from the start, treating me as an outsider. I attributed this to not knowing them well and the fact that they lived in a different state. They even criticized my choice of shoes, calling them too, because they laced up around the calf or ankle, feeling uncomfortable. I asked if I could attend as a guest instead so I could wear what I wanted and avoid the mean girl atmosphere. My brother insisted that I had to be by his side for the wedding. When I arrived in the state for the wedding, I discovered that the best man had organized the bachelor party the night before I got there, and everyone in the wedding party except me had attended. I chose to let it go and focus on my role in the wedding. I put on my fairy wings, danced down the aisle, and gave a heartfelt speech. Everything went well until the drag show at the reception. During the show, one of the queens announced that my brother and his partner had actually gotten married a year earlier. I turned to the rest of the wedding party and asked if they knew about this. They did. They had all been at the real wedding, everyone but me. As I sat there trying to process everything, my mom, who had given them $3,000 for the wedding, stormed over and asked if I knew. When I told her I didn't, she immediately switched to supporting me, recognizing how bad the situation was. It wasn't about them already being married, they could do what they wanted. The issue was the $4,000 I had spent on this wedding, coming from out of state. I bought a plane ticket and paid for a week at an Airbnb where most of the wedding party stayed, without offering to contribute. I also covered the cost of the dress and the handmade fairy wings. I began to remember all the lies. 3 days after they got married, my brother visited my house while I gave birth to my last child, holding my newborn without mentioning his recent wedding. They made me feel crazy for feeling left out, gaslighting me and lying to my face for a year. Realizing all this, I tried to leave without causing a scene. His husband mockingly asked if I was mad. I said we'd talk another day and that they should enjoy their night. The couple pulled me into a room where my brother cried, insisting he didn't mean to hurt me. I kept it together, saying we'd talk another day. His husband remarked, "Oh, so there is something to talk about then." I repeated that we could discuss it another day, and they invited me to brunch. To which I responded that I'd see if I was up for it. The next morning, I noticed a wedding party and some guests were going to lunch. I chose not to go, avoiding another situation where I felt ganged up on. I left the wedding chat on Snapchat, which notified them. His husband then started blowing up my phone and my friend's phone. But we ignored him and went about our day. I haven't spoken to my brother since, except for brief responses to coordinate my trip to the airport before leaving. I asked them to crop me out of the wedding photos as I didn't want to be associated with a fake wedding and didn't want a reminder of how embarrassing it was. I told them I didn't want to speak to them again. My brother said nothing, but his husband called me a narcissist and said he felt sorry for the people who had to deal with me. Ironically, tricking 100 people into attending a wedding, much of which was funded by others, just to reveal it was a fake party seems more narcissistic than my reaction to the wasted time, money, and energy. But alright. LOL. I'm at a loss for what to do next. I've blocked both of them. There's a clear divide in our family, and my brother hasn't attempted to mend it. He had the opportunity to show me my importance to him, and now I have to accept his actions for what they are. I'll try to update in sections. First, regarding whether he's in an abusive relationship, that's subjective and up to each individual to decide. I won't label him as abusive since I'm not in their relationship. The mention of drag queens was simply because they are part of the story. One of the queens made the announcement, so it's relevant to the narrative. Mentioning that someone is gay or that drag queens attended the wedding is factual and part of the story. Our family, as well as my brother's new husband's family, have always been supportive and accepting. Regarding my mom, she has 2 children who are deeply hurt. She could never hate my brother, but she certainly doesn't agree with the choices he has made. She is trying her best to support both of us. As for the wedding, it was a gay wedding with no kids allowed. These are 2 separate facts. They did not ban gay children from their wedding. I mentioned these details to explain why I was a flower fairy. There were no kids allowed, hence no flower girl, so I became a flower fairy to fit the gay and drag theme. I proudly put on those wings and danced down the aisle. There is nothing phobic about that. For those suggesting otherwise, you are projecting and reaching. I embraced the role with pride, knowing it aligned with the celebration's unique theme. The decision to exclude children was simply a part of the wedding plan, not a discriminatory action. By becoming a flower fairy, I was contributing to the joyous and inclusive atmosphere of the event. It's essential to recognize that mentioning these aspects is part of the narrative, and not an expression of any phobic attitudes. Calling someone narcissistic when it doesn't truly apply is, in my opinion, an attempt to weaponize the term. More info in the comments. July 17th, 2023. Top questions. For some reason, I cannot edit my post to add this, so hopefully, most of you will see it. As far as I know, there were no hard feelings between me and the new husband going into the wedding. There was a period when they were dating that I expressed my disapproval of my brother working 2 jobs to support the new husband's dream of becoming a music producer. I watched my brother exhaust himself for years while his partner sat around smoking weed in his studio. This led the new husband to believe I hated him, even though we resolved these issues once he got a job and started contributing. Even when we didn't get along, I always made it clear that if my brother loves him, then I do too. Both families have been very supportive. There is no homophobia or anything like that on either side. Is my brother in an abusive relationship? I don't know. I guess it depends on what each person considers abusive. I don't want to label my brother's partner unfairly as abusive, especially since I'm not in their relationship. And my brother has never expressed feeling abused. If you see this behavior as manipulative and abusive, that's up to your discretion. However, I am not going to give anyone that label. I didn't decide this was a fake wedding. They did when they announced in the middle of the ceremony that they were already married. They made it a fake wedding when they revealed it was fake. LOL. Hello, Russian bots pushing propaganda. Okay, people. I only mentioned the drag show because it's uncommon. I found out that my brother had been married for a year through a drag queen announcement. That's just stating the facts. It has nothing to do with the drag community, or how anyone should feel about them. They were paid to do a job, and they did it. I have no ill will towards anyone in any community. Those of you who think my mentioning them is judgmental are really reaching. For those wondering why I didn't mention that my brother is gay. Why is that relevant? The people who have an issue probably have more of a problem with the community than I do. Stop making this post about anything other than what it is. At the end of the day, I am mourning the loss of my brother. I am mourning the relationship I thought we had based on my perception of our closeness. I am honestly questioning my own sanity. Do you generally spend hours talking, getting matching tattoos, planning a wedding, and being at holidays and childbirth with someone you're not close to? If our closeness wasn't reciprocated, then he is a very good actor. Questioning our closeness has been the most hurtful part of this experience. It's made me question if I'm crazy, gay, wedding, children, two separate statements. It was not a wedding where gay kids were not invited. My brother is obviously gay and married a man, so it was a gay wedding. Children were not allowed to attend. Making it child-free, two separate things, both are okay. And I also want to say that I would never have put on fairy wings and danced down the aisle if I wasn't 100% supportive of them. Please stop trying to make this about anything other than two siblings having a falling out. Another comment, July 17th, 2023. Okay, so I feel like you're really twisting the story here. LOL. I didn't make sure everyone knew I was leaving the wedding. In fact, I left very discreetly around midnight when the wedding was ending at 1 a.m. I didn't make my brother cry. It was his husband who kept trying to force a conversation that I had respectfully asked to postpone multiple times so as not to ruin their day. I showed up and did everything my brother asked of me. I endured the bullying and kept my mouth shut for most of it, after being accused of trying to make the wedding about me. From that point on, I went out of my way to make his day as special as possible. Comment about her husband, July 17th, 2023. My brother tried to contact my husband to ask how to pay back what I spent to come to the wedding. My husband said he wouldn't get involved. My brother tried to convince him that I was overreacting. My husband told my brother that was absolutely not true and that I had every right to be upset, and what he did was bonkers. My husband has been very supportive, but is also very sad to see me and my brother fighting like this. Update, July 19th, 2023. I'm trying to include as much information as possible, but it often ends up too long for Reddit. So I'll paraphrase a lot. The update is that there is no real update. Things remain the same, and they are still blocked. Someone suggested I write him a letter, which I did the day after everything happened. I left it in his room, detailing my feelings and how deeply hurt I was. During a 2-hour drive, he said absolutely nothing, even after reading my letter. When I landed, I lost my composure after my husband informed me that my brother had sent a message claiming I was overreacting. I said many things I regret. However, I stand by my truth and perspective of what happened. Please stop trying to make this a phobia issue. Both families have been nothing but supportive, and they represent themselves, not an entire group. Mentioning the drag queens was relevant because one of them announced a secret marriage. How often do you see a drag show at a wedding? If you perceive an imaginary undertone, that's a problem. Moving on. I don't consider the new husband abusive, but abuse is subjective. I see him as emotionally immature. He's always been intimidated by my opinions because I can see through his BS. Weak men dislike strong women, and that's the case here. However, we had no issues on the wedding day or for years before. I made it clear that if my brother loves him and wants to spend his life with him, I support that. My mom is trying her best to support both of her kids. She could never hate my brother, although she absolutely hates what he did. As for me, I don't know who I am without my brother. He was as important to me as my children and my husband. It was always me and him. To say that I am mourning is an understatement. This whole situation has made me question a 30-year relationship. Realizing that he could lead a double life that I wasn't part of has shaken my entire world and sense of reality. I'm not okay. I plan to spend the next year with no contact, focusing on therapy to get my mind, body, and soul in the best place possible while spreading as much good karma as I can. Maybe then I can decide whether to close that door permanently or if I'm ready to build a new normal with him. At the end of the day, I am absolutely devastated and heartbroken. I also want to address some frequently asked questions. First off, There was no chance that baby number 5 would be overshadowed because their marriage anniversary coincided with their wedding date and had nothing to do with me or my pregnancy. Second, I understand people have small weddings and big ceremonies later, and that's okay. It's not about what they did, it's about how they did it. Third, I'm not a Russian bot pushing propaganda, although those comments did make me laugh. Fourth, if I knew why they felt comfortable doing this to me, I wouldn't be as confused as I am. I'm not leaving out any details. To be honest, it would be simpler if I'd done something terrible to earn this, as I would then know why and wouldn't have to wonder. At the end of the day, I'm not okay. I don't know if there's anything he could do to fix this. I'll always wonder if he's telling me the truth or what he's hiding after the way his husband spoke to me and my brother allowing it. I am honestly disgusted with both of them. I deleted the original post because I didn't want them to be attacked. Sadly, I still feel the need to protect him. I don't know why the brother-in-law appeared and made comments in the original post. July 23rd, brother-in-law here. First off, having a big wedding ceremony a year later wasn't my idea. Once we decided to go through with it, we discussed many times whether to inform people beforehand to avoid situations like this. I've never had a great relationship with OP. But we've tried to make things work, mainly for my husband, her brother, because I knew they were very close, while I wasn't too fond of her due to past interactions. I understand the importance of close family relationships and would never wish to disrupt that bond. OP didn't want to discuss it at all. We tried to apologize and explain that our intention was never to humiliate or insult anyone, but she refused to have any conversation, especially on the night of the event. The next day at the Airbnb, I attempted to talk to her about how she was feeling, but she responded with snarky comments, saying there was nothing to talk about. That's when I said, "So there is something to talk about." I eventually gave up and left the room. Everything she said didn't help me or anyone else understand her feelings. And the little she did express seemed very self-centered, as if this had been a plan to humiliate her specifically, which it absolutely was not. Reading through this now, I do understand more why she felt that way, and for that, I truly am sorry. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure how these work, or if there's a proper way to post this, but feel free to ask me anything. July 19th, 2023, OP, who felt publicly humiliated by her brother, new brother-in-law, and the wedding party, replied, "All I'm going to say is that you both are married now, and you made your choice. You are a partnership, and you both collectively decided to do this, believing it was a good idea. The consequence is that I want nothing to do with either of you ever again. That's it. There is no reason or purpose to continue an open dialogue about this because it's done. Your post, starting with you not liking me, confirmed everything I said. I wish you and him nothing but happiness, but this conversation is over. I've heard your side, and it still isn't enough to justify what you did. I'm choosing to walk away from both of you." He admits in the text above that he knew. He literally says, "We didn't want to tell people because they were there and happy." He knew what he was doing. It was a huge manipulation. Lying to people to get what you want is manipulation. Omitting things from people to not give them the power to make a fair choice is also manipulation. They knew what they were doing when others said, "Brother doesn't value sister the same way." That was it. That's the end of the argument. They both showed me exactly what I meant to them. The motivation behind it is not important anymore. Maybe this was just a total oversight and a mistake, but regardless, the result and consequence remain the same. I want nothing to do with you both. I wish you happiness because I will always love him. If you make him happy, then I am happy for both of you, truly I am. Our relationship was the sacrifice for this day, and you both decided to make it. I reacted to it, and was trying to sort through my feelings by posting on this podcast. I did not expect it to go viral, so for that I am sorry. I tried to remove the post, but it was too late. I realize that you don't like me due to past interactions, and that's fine, so what I'm about to say won't matter. My heart is completely shattered. I'm literally going through a mourning process like someone died, because that night, the relationship, and I did die. He has always been my person. He isn't now, and I've never felt more alone. I honestly don't know if I'm going to be okay. Both of your responses just confirm everything I said and felt. You have your side, I have mine, but ultimately everyone is feeling the loss of me. And this changes everything in the family. I'm going to continue to root for both of you always, but I'm going to do it from my side of the world. In an emergency, either of you can call me, and I'll be there. But outside of that, I am done with both of you. You don't like me, and now I'm out of your life. You don't get to defer to him when it comes to me but want to orchestrate our conversation after he did what he did. You are not a safe place for me, just like I'm sure you feel I'm not for you. You win. Go be with him. Go have a happy life. OP's brother-in-law, who made an account to respond, in hindsight, keeping the wedding a secret was a bad choice, and I openly admit that. As for the rest, it's tough because although things were tense between us, I never wanted to make anything worse. Whenever I had to deal with OP, I would defer to her brother on how to handle it. Reading all of this was the first time I heard about her wanting to back out of the wedding party, so I have absolutely no idea about that. Honestly, I have ADHD, so I'm not great at planning. And anyone who knows us knows that her brother is the type A planner. I wasn't as involved in the wedding party or planning. I wish I had phrased things differently. But I did say that after she refused to talk to anyone for 2 days, once her brother dropped her off at the airport, she decided to put us both in a group chat and go off about how she stands by her truth and won't hear anything else. I know it was mean, and I regret it, but it's too late. Regarding the surprise, hindsight is 20/20. I was fearful of a grand upset, and I'm pretty sure her brother was too. We talked about it, but it was one of those things where you forget to text back, and after a while, it's too awkward to say anything. Obviously, the magnitude of these things is vastly different, but when we decided to keep it a secret, we just stuck to our guns. Time flew by, and before we knew it, it was the week of the wedding. By that point, we thought about telling her and some other key family members, but we figured it had been so long already. Rather than risk a huge blowout that could result in the wedding not happening, we decided to wait and hope for the best. Some decisions were made, and that sucks. The comment I made is the only mean thing I said to her all week, and it came after trying so hard to smooth things over with her and her brother, and receiving a cold shoulder, followed by weird accusations. She can hate me, and that's fine, but her brother doesn't deserve the vitriol omitted from OP's posts. I was hoping things would work out. The section above reflects my perspective at the time, given that I only had a bit of her perspective filtered through all the anger. I feel more sympathetic now. I still don't agree with everything, but I understand more. Again, I'm sorry for how painful it really was. I wish things could have been done differently. Sorry for the huge run-on sentences. I'm not placing blame on anyone. I'm just recounting what happened. The ADHD explanation doesn't absolve anything and wasn't intended to. I fully admit my part in the wrong, but I didn't mastermind anything like people assume. We made a dumb choice that led to hurt, and I truly apologize for that. However, I won't let thousands of people accuse me of something I didn't do without at least trying to clarify from my point of view. There's a whole history between OP and me from years ago that was left out of her posts, and she knows that. Final comment from the brother-in-law. All right, I've said my piece and apologized. I've tried to smooth things over as much as I can. I hold no ill will towards anyone and never have. It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone, but it did, and that sucks. I didn't mastermind anything. And this wasn't my idea. I said something mean at the end after being blasted in texts. No one's perfect. You formed your opinions about me from a one-sided perspective, and that's okay. This is Reddit at the end of the day. Those commenting weren't there and don't know the people involved in real life. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I genuinely mean that. But yeah. Well, I was at this wedding, though I was not part of the wedding party. I agree that a lot of what happened with OP is messed up. However, I'm calling on some of the things said by her brother's husband, or at least the tone or the way it was interpreted. That man might be the most stand-up guy I know. He quickly became a best friend of mine when he became my boss over a year ago. I've seen him go above and beyond to help people he's not even fond of. The only way I see him doing these things is if OP said something she's omitting from her post. Second thing I'm questioning, the entire wedding party was not at lunch the next day. I was there. And only 2 of the 6 members were present. OP's brother's best man was there, and 1 other person. There was a plan for everyone to go, but everyone had their own things to do, etc. Lots of stuff needed to be driven around, etc. Again, what happened with Opie was messed up, even from the point of view I heard, which was her brother's husband. And I'm confident that I only know about 10% of the actual events. However, every story has two sides, or rather, for in this instance, her not being at their actual wedding makes sense, given that she had just moved to the East Coast, and the wedding was on the West Coast. That, and as she mentioned, she gave birth 3 days later. If it was my sister, she would have known at least. And she would have been my best man at the wedding party. But that's me. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this was exaggerated based on what I know, which again, isn't much. There are always two sides to a story, for sure, but let's strip away all the narrative and focus on the main issues here. Opie invested a lot of time, effort, and money into the wedding, believing it was a real ceremony. She thought she was one of the most important people there. She even had the courage to fairy dance down the aisle, which not everyone would be brave enough to do, only to have it revealed in a humiliating way that the wedding was fake. Man, I'd be so gutted by handling things the way they did. They probably made her feel really hurt, and took away her important role in the wedding in just a few seconds. Then she realized she was the only one who didn't know. Kick a fairy when she's down. It really could have been far better thought out. I'll be honest, I would feel like the butt of the joke and really, really embarrassed. I think most people would. We all make mistakes. And some damage control is certainly needed to rebuild bridges. Hope they work it out. I don't know what I'd do without my brothers and sisters in my life. A wedding guest and friend or former employee of the brother-in-law commented on the situation. They agreed with most of what was said but pointed out that Opie had made assumptions about at least two things. One of these was the lunch they attended. Opie assumed it was a large lunch that included everyone except her, which was not the case. It was only the commenter and 3 others. The commenter chose the place to eat just 5 minutes before they went. They clarified that they simply attended the wedding and stayed over overnight, since they had driven 90 minutes to get there. Most of the wedding party wasn't present at that lunch, and the grooms had said they wouldn't be attending because they wanted to spend time with Opie. The commenter questioned what other assumptions Opie had made. They knew Opie assumed her brother's husband had put him up to keeping the previous wedding a secret and that it was all his idea. However, this was not the case. The decision not to tell anyone was actually her brother's idea. The commenter reiterated that Opie's feelings were valid regarding many aspects of the situation. They acknowledged they knew less than Opie, her brother, or her brother's husband, but believed that if Opie and her brother had a conversation about it, much of the tension could be resolved. While it might not completely heal the wounds, both should be willing to try. They expressed surprise that Opie's brother didn't speak at all in the car with her, calling it unfortunate. Finally, the commenter clarified that they didn't know Opie personally beyond shaking hands and introducing themselves at the beginning of the wedding. They admitted to being biased since they knew her brother's husband well and her brother fairly well by that point too. New update February 6, 2024. I wish I could say that my brother had begged for my forgiveness, and that things had returned to how they were, but they haven't. Nothing in my situation has changed. The only thing that has truly changed is my perception of someone I thought I knew. Many people might not understand this because they aren't close with their siblings. But this experience has felt like a true death for me. Sometimes my grief is so overwhelming that I don't know how to handle it. My brother hasn't reached out, explained, or even seemed to care. And that has been a real mindfuck. Going from someone who was as important to me as my husband and children to someone who shows repeatedly how little I meant to them has been devastating. He has doubled down on the "I didn't do anything wrong" and "you're overreacting" stance, which feels like the biggest slap in the face. If someone can't admit they did something wrong, they will never truly be sorry, and the chances of their behavior repeating are high. Many of you pointed out that our relationship might have only been this important to me, and I think you're right. For a long time, I cried every day, during times we would normally talk on the phone, when a song reminded me of him, and sometimes for no reason other than the feeling of a hole inside me. But I find myself crying less and less. Sometimes, when I think of him, my first thought is, wow, it's been days since he even crossed my mind. And I guess that's progress, right? I'm not crying every day anymore, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still shedding tears he doesn't deserve, but they come anyway. That's the thing about unconditional love. It still exists even when the other person has broken your heart. It doesn't go away, but sometimes the other person can no longer have access to that unconditional love. We have spoken briefly over the phone during the holidays to deal with a family emergency involving another family member. It was pretty much all business. Everyone around us kept saying, "I'm so glad you guys are talking again." But we weren't. We were just dealing with business, and I guess that's all the talking we will ever do again. At one point, my husband chimed in and told him how much he misses him too, and my brother cried. I guess I forgot that I wasn't the only one losing someone, but either way, it doesn't change anything. My kids haven't even noticed. He did try to send Christmas gifts to them through my mom, but only because I mentioned him not acknowledging my son's birthday. So is that all he'll ever be, impersonal? Generic gifts that my kids get once a year? I told my mom to send them back, saying they don't need a gift from an uncle. They have enough of those on my husband's side. I also realize that if you don't have a good, respectful relationship with me, you don't get access to my children. To be honest, he never really took much interest in my kids anyway. I know he cares and loves them, but as far as a personal one-on-one relationship with them, the extent of his involvement was always me telling him about them. There wasn't a deep, pre-established relationship between my kids and him. With him not being on good terms with me or my husband, I'm not going to allow him access to my children. I would feel the same way and react the same way toward anyone else. If someone repeatedly shows they don't love and respect you, why would you allow them access to your kids? Especially if all they are is a once-a-year gift. I'm not healed, but I'm on my way. It's not better, but it's getting better. I feel like I'm suffering the consequences of someone else's actions. I was spiraling, but I am finding my new normal. I'll update again at the 1-year mark. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.